excited about that's now in all the states in our nation. And clearly there are new and exciting things happen, but I want to bring us to a focus since I have that opportunity at the national and the federal level to provide some leadership to this program, to focus on what our nation is focusing on, and that is our national education goals. We have set forth, our nation has set forth, our governors, our president, our new president, our past president, and now we have before Congress legislation which would enact into law those 6 national education goals. And one among them is by the goal 3, is by the year 2000, American students will leave grades 4, 8, and 12 having demonstrated competency in challenging, and I want to underline that word challenging, subject matter, including English, including mathematics, including science, including history, and geography. And every school, we're asking every school in our nation to ensure that all students will be able to learn to use their minds so that they can be prepared for responsible citizenship, further learning, productive employment, and modern economy. And you probably take a gasp, as I do, whenever I listen to that goal and try to grasp what it means to all of us. It really is setting forth a very daunting challenge. And if we're talking about meeting those national education goals, it's not the kids at the top that we're concerned about, it's those kids who are at the bottom. Those are our Chapter 1 kids, the kids who have the furthest to go, kids who have the most to benefit from these goals. So one of the things we must create is an ethic of learning in our country, and it must be based on the straightforward premise that we must have high standards, not minimum standards for all children. If we're talking about professional development, we're talking about what we need our teachers to know. And we've got to move beyond, and I know that the Chapter 1 teachers watching tonight aren't engaged in low-level drill and practice worksheets, that they are in fact thinking about challenging content so that the kids not only master the basics, but master how they can learn to think as well. You mentioned the issue of standards, and clearly I know International Reading Association, National Council, not only of Teachers of Math, but English are engaged in those standards. And if we're going to have teachers help teach to those high standards, we must have professional development that's intensive, that's ongoing, that's sustained. And yes, we are addressing new legislation. I spent most of today meeting with congressional staff and congressmen about our new legislative proposal for Chapter 1. And in that context, I can certainly say that we looked at the studies when we developed our proposals in Chapter 1, and we looked at the studies that showed that Chapter 1 teachers, like most teachers in our nation, receive very little staff development, and very little, not only very little, but oftentimes on multiple subjects, multiple topics, 3 to 6 hours, after school, after Saturday, maybe on Sunday or in the summer when you have a little more time, but at the best it is not sustained, it's not ongoing. I often say that we have sort of the flavor of the month in terms of what happens with staff development. And I'd like to propose that when we talk about Chapter 1 staff development, we know that it has to be an integral part of school improvement. And we will see that all we do in our legislation is going to be tied into reforms that are engaged in the whole school, that teachers and administrators and parents are going to be asked to work together, that not every district, but every school, every Chapter 1 school, and we're going to return it to Title I for all of you who've just gotten used to Chapter 1. We're going to propose it goes back to Title I again. That teachers and administrators work together to develop staff development, and that's for all staff, and that Chapter 1 staff, along with all staff, not just the Chapter 1 teachers, but all the regular staff involved, and that they're going to have to show us how it's going to be sustained, it's going to be intensive, it's going to be ongoing. And I want to mention simply here again, for parents, we're going to make sure that they're included in professional development, because we know that teachers can't do it alone, that parents have to be engaged, and that if we're going to not only teach to those high standards, teachers are going to be challenged in terms of what is the challenging content, do they have it, how do I teach to it, how do I assess it. So we're going to be addressing a wide range of those issues. And we must, in our Chapter 1 and in schooling in general, I think we must use staff development to further what kids need to know and to be able to do and know how we're going to assess that. I know we're going to talk more about that, but all of it's intricately aligned with one another. And again, I want to end as I started just in this brief session to say, if we're going to reach that daunting national education goal and we're going to set high standards for all kids, we're going to have the support that supports our Chapter 1 program. You're going to find that not only are we going to do it in Chapter 1, we're going to have what we call a new Title 2, which is going to combine some resources that are currently available through other federal programs, and we're going to have every district in the country get money to help teachers, all teachers, engage in staff development activities. So I think it's exciting times that we have ahead of us.
Thank you, Mary Jean. Which of you panelists have a question for Mary Jean?
What do you see
Kathy.
as one of the things that school districts and school boards and the public could do most to help support the kinds of standards that you've been discussing?
Well, obviously it's the very topic we're talking about today, and that's giving teachers an opportunity and all staff an opportunity to have the time to understand what those content standards are, to have opportunities throughout the day, throughout the year, and not just workshops. I went to lots of workshops. I'd like to say we need work groups instead of workshops. We need people across the board working as groups to implement these standards. And it's going to be things that we recognize don't happen overnight, and we're going to have sustained ongoing. But setting a priority for staff development, establishing resources both in terms of dollars and time, and priority is something that's going to need to happen if we're going to carry it out. And we're pleased that at the federal level we're going to set that as a high priority throughout all of our elementary and secondary education, and in particular for Chapter 1, the new Title 1.
Through your whole presentation, I seem to hear what I believed is a collaboration of everyone who works with youngsters together. Am I right?
You are absolutely right. We know that schools can't do it alone. Teachers certainly can't do it alone. Administrators need to help. Principals need to help. We also believe we have to extend into the community. And also throughout our new legislation, there's going to be the issue of coordinating not only Chapter 1 with the regular program, but with other federal programs, with other agencies, and again, dealing with the whole child and dealing with those kinds of social and health supports that children need if we're going to be able to give them the optimum conditions to learn. So true, it's going to be collaborative within schools, within the community, across programs, and within the state as well.
Thank you, Mary Jean, for a most informative presentation. And now I'd like to have the pleasure to introduce Kathy Ann Ransom, who's an educational consultant from Springfield, Illinois. Kathy will share the International Readings Association's Professional Development Project. Kathy.
One of the concerns that's tied into what you've been commenting on earlier is, for a long time of teachers, is how do we more adequately measure and assess the reading skills and strengths of our boys and girls? We need more than just one-day standardized assessment kinds of testing to get a better picture of what the children are really doing. There's more to reading than just that one single opportunity to read a short paragraph and to respond. We need to be able to figure out ways to check how children perform when they're predicting, when they're summarizing, to find out ways how well they're doing when they read orally as well as when they read silently. We even need to check and see how they write in response to material that they've read. It's for that reason, and also we've been for a long time trying to figure out how do we check growth over time. Again, one of the problems with standardized tests only. And it's for that reason that the International Reading Association, in cooperation with Chapter 1 and other agencies, have tried to take on a new challenging project to develop a staff development program that will help teachers and principals alike develop a series of professional opportunities for growth, to measure children at different times in the day as they do real reading activities, as they look over the shoulder of kids and spy on what they're doing. How well do they read? How well do they respond? How well do they think as they look at print material? We want to also help schools with this project to begin to develop a unique program for their particular needs, whether they're in an urban school district, whether they're in a rural area, whether they have a small number of children, or whether it's a very large district. So it's for that reason that we have begun to put together a program that hopefully will be introduced in May that includes a variety of components built around, first of all, a facilitator's manual. And in this manual, the staff can sit down